Perfect. Welcome everyone. Can everyone online hear me? Alex, if you could give me a thumbs up. I'm just going to begin. Hopefully you can't hear much background noise. Good afternoon everyone and welcome to our Connect 4 Session 7, our first hybrid event, taking place both online and at Westminster City Council's Lord Mayor's Parlour. My name is Rachel Aldridge, Communications Project Manager at CRP, and today we're going to be exploring urban futures, creating a city. We have 3 expert speakers today and a Q&A session after all of that as well. So we are delighted to have you both here in person and online. Our first speaker today will be Chris Hogwood, Managing Director at Landsec. Chris leads the corporate affairs and sustainability teams at Landsec and will be presenting the newly launched Urban Patriotism report. Next up we'll have Alex Herdman joining us online. Alex is a public policy manager at Logistics UK and will be presenting on the impact of logistics sites in the UK prepared for Amazon. This report assesses the logistics sector's contribution towards the economic and social outcomes of local communities across the UK, as well as how this aligns with the UK government's ambition to deliver high quality jobs and support the economy's transition to net zero. Finally, Jack Alexander, Project Officer at CRP, will be launching CRP's new Business Cargo Bike Guide. So that was developed as part of the DEFRA-funded Clean Air Villages 4 programme, and this site acts as a directory of businesses and services, providing information on buying, maintaining and operating a cargo bike. So if you're joining online, please put your questions in the Teams chat, and if you're having any technical issues, Dave is moderating that. So yeah, just a quick section on CRP. So we are working in partnership to deliver environmental, economic and community-focused projects. We support public, private and voluntary organisations to address creatively challenges around air quality, transport, placemaking, and wellbeing. Cities are more than just a place to live, they form our identity, and the way in which London is changing COVID is an exciting opportunity for all of these 4 topics on screen. And yeah, post-COVID London brings about an opportunity for more good employment in the logistics industry, a chance for emerging cargo bike sectors to thrive, and support for local communities on the ground and in their neighbourhoods deliver partnership working. So together we can achieve this post-COVID growth that's environmentally as well as economically sustainable. So to start the conversation, sorry if you're just joining, if you wouldn't mind being on, and to start the conversation I'm going to hand over to Chris Hogwood from Landsec. Yes, okay.
I think that's better. Hello everyone online. Good afternoon everyone. My name is Chris Hogwood. As Rachel said, I'm the Managing Director for Corporate Affairs and Sustainability. For those of us who don't know us, we're a commercial real estate developer. We develop offices. Large part of the value of our business is in offices. We're in a Landsec building today. Obviously in the room, you've obviously seen the lovely views and how wonderful it is as a building. If you're online, you just have to imagine it's the best building you've ever seen, and really you should be encouraging all your employers to be renting space from Landsec at some point in time. Alongside offices, we also provide a lot of retail, what we think about as a retail destination, so large destination retail centres such as Trinity in Leeds or Blue Water down in Kent. And then increasingly, we're getting more and more involved in urban regeneration schemes. So actually, we have lots of suburban shopping centres which probably aren't really going to work in their current form for much longer. So we're thinking about how we can repurpose them to become more mixed-use centres that really bring to life more residential opportunities, more community opportunities, and so on. So the first 2 of those at the moment are in the O2 in Finchley Road and Lewisham Shopping Centre, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. I'm here to talk about urban patriotism, which is a report we put out relatively recently. I thought it'd be helpful if I explain why we did it and then what it is and what I think is therefore interesting and relevant to everyone in the room and on the call. So why we did it. So we commissioned it last year. Remember back to last year, there was a pandemic that we were coming out of. Turns out the pandemic hasn't completely gone. I don't know if you've seen the stats at the moment. But I think there was a couple of interesting things going on around the pandemic at that point in time. Everyone was quite uncertain about which way we were going to be going as a nation and what that really meant for lots of businesses, for lots of cities. So if you think through what I've just talked about in terms of our business strategy, it's a big punt on the future of the city. Right? So it's about offices, it's about retail destinations, and it's about mixed-use urban neighbourhoods and so on. So those are united by urban areas, by cities and so on. So we want to contribute to the success of cities. And then at the same time, we have the pandemic, which fundamentally challenged the concepts of cities. The idea that bringing people together to live, work, play, and do all the other things in between and so on, fundamentally challenged. No one was quite sure about how it was going to come, how it might return. And then from a political lens as well, I won't make too many party political statements at this point in time, but I think it's fair to say at that point in time, the Conservative government wasn't very clear on its vision for the future of cities as it came back out of the pandemic. I think it was very focused politically on where their electoral coalition was, which is actually in towns. And they were seeing cities as very a second piece, a sort of second order piece, I suppose, to the levelling up agenda and really thinking through about how to bounce back from the pandemic. So we thought there was a number of issues for us to address. If you really care about the success of cities, you need to be thinking about their future success, the challenges people are facing now, and then actually politically getting politicians focused on the policies, the ideas that are actually really going to help you address that. So what did we do? We really wanted to understand how people were thinking about their cities as we came out of the pandemic. So we did 12 focus groups across 4 cities. The smart ones in the meeting will work out that's 3 focus groups in each city. So the cities were London, Manchester, Leeds and Birmingham. And we really wanted to explore with a whole wide different set of people. We did quite a lot of different socioeconomic cuts and so on through focus groups about why people love their cities, why they chose to live there, some of the challenges they faced, and then what might potentially change their relationship with the city if push came to shove and so on. Now, I suspect most people on the call and in the room are relatively urban people and so on. So you kind of understand that living in a city is something of a compromise from time to time. You know, you might tolerate higher housing costs, perhaps higher crime rates, a bit more pollution in return for the things that a city can offer you, whether those are social opportunities, cultural opportunities or employment opportunities. And these are some of the things we really wanted to test. Now, the thing that came outside of every different city was something that we didn't think we'd actually pick up on, but actually really good counter to where the government was thinking in terms of the politics of cities at that point in time. Government has been very focused on social fabric as something that really knitted together smaller towns outside of the big cities and so on. And there's always been this bit of an idea that cities are these sort of slightly anonymous places that lack those kind of communal threads, the things that really bind people together. If you remember the Theresa May citizens of nowhere, citizens of the world kind of jab at people that lived in metropolitan centres like this. So the thing that really came out to us was something that the people who helped us develop the research termed urban patriotism. So something that's a little bit more than civic pride, something that goes really, really deep. It's an emotional level that people feel a large part of their identity is actually defined by the city where they live. Now, people's experiences of cities vary and they differ. You can look out the window over here and London goes on quite a long way that way, goes on quite a long way that way, and that way, and that way, and so on. So the experiences across the city are different and varied, but there is this real sense about what the city provides, and actually it is networks of friendship, it's family ties, and there is also the pride of the inclusivity of cities. One of the things that really came out was lots of people feeling proud that their civic and city identity was being expanded by incomes coming into it. So, for example, there was a guy in one of the Birmingham focus groups who said it was really, really great talking to Polish people who then considered themselves Brummies, because he was like, that makes me even more proud to be a Brummie because we've got an inclusive culture that allows that to happen. So it's something that is deeply emotionally connecting for people within cities. The other thing, though, it did identify some of the challenges that you face in a city, sort of what the report talks about as push factors. Now, I don't think these will come as a huge surprise to many people because it is basically the city compromise that lots of people go through. high house prices being a really, really important one. I know we've got lots of people from a kind of local government audience and background here. We're a developer developing more residential. It's at the forefront of nearly every single discussion we have, and it's really important we get it right. As a developer, one of the ones that really kind of popped out to me is the sense that there is too great a pace of change in cities. There is too much development happening too fast, too quickly. And that is something that's quite disconcerting, even to lots of young people that might sort of have grown up in an area of quite constant change. Actually, there is a moment of like, perhaps there is just a bit too much going on, or we need to find better ways of exploring how to do that development. Crime is a repeated issue, and I think, I suppose one of the few things that sorry, I was about to make a passing political comment again. One of the things that the current Tory leadership candidates are really focused on is crime, and I think that is because that's the thing they hear from their residents or from their constituency members all the time. Crime is a huge issue. I think you're very close to it in cities a lot more than you actually are outside, and therefore actually the fear of crime and the realities of crime sometimes slightly different depending where you live. One of the things that came out of the focus group is actually people really identifying some quite serious crimes that they had personally witnessed and so on, and that obviously really challenges your sense of safety and security. And I think the other thing that really came out, and this was in my previous job, I did lots of polling through the pandemic, and something that really came home in cities was actually how far people felt from nature and the impact of air quality and how much they want. I know we're going to talk a little bit about sort of schemes connected to air quality a bit later on. But I really think that's one of the kind of really key drivers. If you want to make cities better, more green spaces, we're very fortunate here because, sorry, for the benefit of people on the call, if I look to my left, there is St James's Park, and it looks really nice from up here. The rest of London does not necessarily look like that, and we definitely need to think through how we can create more greenery, more open, public, accessible spaces and so on for people to go to. So there's quite a lot to digest within that report. If you haven't had a chance to read it, please do take some time. It's based on focus groups. So there's loads of different insights and so on, and we pulled together those kind of core themes. I suppose what would be useful is for us to sort of think about what we therefore need to do as a developer to better connect with people in the areas where we're developing and develop successful urban centres with them. Now, I've worked as a consultant in real estate for a long time before moving in-house, and one of the kind of key things that you always pick up on, reflecting on that kind of pace of change point that people have played back to us in the focus groups, is this idea that regeneration is done to people and not with them or for them and so on. And that is something my industry in particular really needs to get grip. What it keeps doing is working much more closely with local communities to explore what they want, working much more closely with public sector partners to deliver something much better that lasts a long time. The way we started going about doing it in Landsec, we have our new community charter, which came out, which basically sets out the standards to which we're going to develop places with people. A lot more time at the front end of development, actually really understanding what people want to see, what we can provide, and how we might do things differently. I want to flag one little event that we went to just the other day, which is for those of you, you can probably see it a little bit better on the call. It was Lewisham People's Day, which, if you're not from South East London, Lewisham is based in the centre of the known universe, and all that is good about the world. And one of the best things about Lewisham is Lewisham People's Day, which is a big free event which they do in Mountsville Park. And we went along to talk about our redevelopment that's going on there. And one of the things we really wanted to talk to the community about was the community facilities we're going to provide, where we've got this big space in mind. We're not quite sure what we want to go in. We've got some ideas, but we really want to kind of open it up. One of the things we also wanted to start doing was having a conversation with local people about what actually made them proud to live in Lewisham, what they liked about the area and so on. Because it's, let's face it, it's not the most glamorous of locations. And when you say you're from Lewisham, as I am, born in Lewisham, I'm very proud of it. People look at you a bit funny from time to time, and that is something that I think kind of runs contrary to everything that urban patriotism does. That civic identity is so important. So we put together this kind of t-shirt printing workshop, which you can see all those people with the t-shirts there. And the idea was, you got a t-shirt with the Landsec logo on it, so great bit of marketing going on there, which wasn't the main reason. But we also printed out for them lots of different photographs of the built environment in Lewisham. So if you are from that area, you'll know there's a huge cat in Catford, for example. So it's a picture of a cat. There's a building called Lewisham House, which in some ways is not the most attractive building, but it's got a really interesting sort of typography to it and so on. So we printed out all these things, and people then put together their own t-shirts and printed them. And as you can see, we then had lots of young people walking around thinking much more about the built environment. We've also got a number of programmes about how we then harness those young people's views on how we do development, because actually they're a very excluded group at this point in time. When you think about regeneration, it takes 10, 15 years. So my opinion is slightly irrelevant, actually, but a 16 to 18-year-olds is exactly the sort of people we need to be involving in these kind of things. There's just one of the steps that really driven through the Urban Patriotism report, we're trying to sort of really lock in on that sense of civic identity and civic pride and address some of those really big issues that people care about. So the pace of change, how we create greener, more successful and inclusive places for people to live. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Perfect. It's an interesting time. We're going to go to Alex, and we should be able to take the slides. Yeah, any questions for Chris or Alex during the presentation if you're online, please.
Great, sorry Rachel, shall I start now?
Yes, please. Perfect. Thank
Great,
you.
sorry, thank you very much. Thanks Rachel, thanks Chris. Hello everybody, it is great to be here today and also very nice to see some familiar faces in the audience today. My name is Alexandra Herdman and I'm a Public Policy Manager at Logistics UK. Now, Logistics UK is one of Britain's largest business groups and the only one providing a voice for the entirety of the UK's logistics sector. So our role on behalf of over 19,000 members is to enhance the safety, sustainability and efficiency of freight movements throughout the supply chain across all transport modes. Logistics UK members operate over 200,000 goods vehicles, which is almost half of the UK fleet, and some 1 million liveried vans. In addition, they consign over 90% of the freight moved by rail and over 70% of sea and air freight. Now, the first half of my presentation today is about the challenges of delivering in London. You may know that over 80% of London's freight is moved by road, and roads have lots of different functions for different users depending on location and time of day. And there is a real push to make roads not just about travel, but to give a sense of place, which is what Chris was obviously just talking about. But all too often the focus is on how people move, and logistics is at best an afterthought. And London's roads are becoming more and more challenging as TfL, the boroughs and the City of London try to reconcile the very many different competing desires and demands. For example, congestion, which is probably the biggest single challenge the logistics sector faces servicing London. With fixed shifts and fixed amounts of goods to deliver, increased journey times and decreased journey time reliability. And ironically, this often results in putting more lorries and vans on the road. And reallocation of road space has been particularly accelerated during the COVID-19 pandemic to encourage important things like more active travel, including walking and cycling. And Logistics UK absolutely supports the aims behind this, but we really do need to ensure that we can still have curbside access to make deliveries and that journey times do not massively increase. Low traffic neighbourhoods are something with, again, a great intention to reduce rat running, to make residential streets more pleasant and to encourage walking and cycling. But there have been unintended consequences as drivers are then funnelled onto main roads, increasing congestion and journey times. And curbside access is always a challenge. We've worked really hard with members and highway authorities over the years to identify solutions, but with increased reallocation of road space, such as for cycle docking stations, e-scooter rental docks, and lots of other competing demands, it's become a more and more challenging environment. And there are lots of societal and economic benefits of using the roads at times when they are less congested for nighttime deliveries, but only if you can do this quietly. And over the years, we've done lots of work on this with the Department for Transport, the Noise Abatement Society and Transport for London, including a successful programme of rescheduling deliveries for the Olympic Games, which was, of course, 10 years ago now. But there are lots of restrictions, planning conditions and licensing conditions and local agreement that provide challenges. And we have the London Lorry Control Scheme, which is not a lorry ban, but it does put significant restrictions on the movement of goods and vehicles over 18 tonnes at night and at weekends, with the aim of protecting Londoners from the noise of trucks on the move. And it sends lorries on substantial detours, which can be contrary to the aims to reduce emissions and achieve net zero. Added to this, there are other regulatory challenges which impact on logistics. The aims behind them, emissions reductions and improving safety, are of course something the logistic industry wholeheartedly supports. And these include low emission zones and ultra low emission zones, the direct vision standard, which will be tightened up in October 2024, the smart road user charging. But needless to say, this is a complex regulatory environment with increasing costs, reduced certainty of London's road network, and the industry's ambition to achieve net zero means that we really need to look at all supply chain solutions. So, what are the solutions? Well, part of the solution is right here in the heart of the city, the Thames, which is a huge underutilised highway going right into the heart of the capital. It is very well used already for aggregates and waste, but it also offers lots of untapped potential to carry lighter freight to help us with the congestion challenges and keep the capital on track to achieve net zero. The Thames provides direct access to the city as well as being a sustainable mode of transport. And most importantly for the logistics sector, it provides reliability. A current scheme run by DHL to bring express parcels into the heart of the city from Heathrow, with last mile deliveries by e-cargo bikes, is an example of new ways of thinking. And other schemes have been run by Guy's and St Thomas's. We hope that the hard work of these pilot schemes will benefit others who want to venture into using the river for part of their supply chain. When speaking at a Logistics UK event recently, DHL mentioned that what would have been useful when they started out is if they had more information about how the river operates and the many interrelated but separate issues that they have to contend with, including wharves, speed limits and tide times. And since DHL began their pilot, Cross River Partnership has developed the guide for getting started with river freight, and this helps anyone understand the intricacies of using the river and getting started on river freight. But the river is not a panacea. It is part of a wide-ranging mix of supply chain solutions. And as part of this, Logistics UK wants the government to define and commit to an ambitious target to grow freight traffic on inland waterways, similar to the commitment to grow rail freight, which is currently being consulted on by Great British Railways. But unfortunately, freight moved by water has declined in recent years, and 54% of all inland waterways freight is on the Thames. And whilst road will always remain the dominant mode for freight, growth really is possible elsewhere. And now the second half of my presentation is about the economic and the benefits to society of the logistics sector. Now, taken directly from a report, The Impact of Logistics Sites in the UK, which was commissioned by Amazon and supported by Logistics UK. The report highlights how the logistics sector supports upward social mobility, as well as being a significant employer. Across the UK, 35,000 people were promoted to managerial roles in 2021, and 2 in 3 managers do not have a university degree. And 87% of logistic workers have received training in their current role. A new logistics site employing around 1,500 people contributes an additional 1,000 jobs in the local area. And high density logistics is linked with 1.3 percentage points additional GDP per capita growth at local authority level. Now, although I am speaking virtually today, I know that in the room you are in Westminster. So I've taken some data from the Cities of London and Westminster Constituency, which is available online as part of the report study. Now, although this is a constituency without significant logistics infrastructure, we can see that the sector has increased as an employer in this area over recent years. And importantly, supporting the UK figures that I just mentioned, we can see that of 623 managerial level jobs, half of these were from people who began their careers as entry level. And of the 623 managers, 418 of them don't even have a university degree. Now, if we look further down the river to the constituency of Thurrock, you will find the London Gateway. And here we can see that the logistics employs almost a third of all workers in this constituency. And this has more than doubled in the past 10 years. And the trends really do continue. of nearly 19,000 employees, over 16,000 of these have received training. And at the managerial level, we can see the numbers of entry-level employees and people with a degree now in these managerial positions is on par with the UK average. So logistics really is a significant part of everybody's lives as a means of bringing us food, goods, medicines, as well as the materials to build our homes, roads and power stations. And as an employer, the value it adds is both quantifiable and huge. Thank you very much for listening.
Perfect, thank you, Alex. I'm going to hand over to Jack.
Hello, can everybody hear me on the call? Alexandra, give me a thumbs up if you can. Yay, good, excellent, no worries. Hi everyone, I'm Jack. I am a project officer with CRP. Great to hear from Chris from Landsec about why connecting people is one thing that makes our cities and London really great. And also lovely to hear from Alexandra about the strength of the logistics sector for employment, for economic uplift, and really heartening to have some of our work. I'm going to be launching a new website that we've made as part of our Clean Air Villages programme. But I'm going to lead into it the long way around by talking a bit about cargo bikes, which is what this website is all about, and some of our work on green and clean logistics. This is a new tool that has a very much grassroots focus, a very DIY focus on logistics for a cleaner city. And we love cargo bikes at CRP. We enjoy doing things a bit differently. Cargo bikes are a fantastic way of getting things around, reducing traffic, which we've heard about as a increasing issue, choking some of our streets. It improves air quality, not just by reducing vehicle miles, but it's also about pollution exposure as well. It's about where that pollution is. So we're having less idling around, I don't know, our town centres, our schools, our hospitals, where we need clean air the most. We have fewer vehicle miles because we have fewer failed deliveries. Now that we're all getting things off Amazon, wherever else, every other day, we have a lot of attempted redeliveries. So a lot of the light freight traffic in London might be going around empty, might be going around with nothing in the back. So while traffic levels have been dropping with the introduction of things like ULEZ, light freight traffic still remains stubbornly high. So cargo bikes are fantastic for healthier streets, local solutions, and are really good at placemaking as well. I put cargo bikes are intrinsic to connectedness, but I really mean connectedness is intrinsic to cargo bikes. It allows us to develop custom solutions for local areas and be responsive to challenges and the character of local neighbourhoods. An example of this, the Brixton project, which I'm going to touch on really soon, is a micro-logistics hub that we have set up to serve businesses in Brixton. One of the businesses that we brought on board to use this service is a bar called the Courtesan, and so that Ammon is the manager of this bar, so that he can bring on local businesses in the area, smaller businesses, to use this cargo bike scheme. He is doing shared buying them. They might be putting in orders that are too small for their suppliers to comfortably deliver to them. So it allows him to help out his neighbours to build this kind of even more dynamic local business community with this shared buying scheme. That they all buy something together, it all gets delivered to this hub, and it all gets taken to them by bikes as and when they need it. It's a really good way of working together as a community. So a bit more on CRP's work with cargo bikes. I've spoken about this Brixton Hub. It is funded by Clean Air Village, all our last ever funded projects, and will continue to be funded by Impact for the next, I believe, 12 months. I might be telling huge lies. Thank you, bro. At the other end of things, we've got a peer. We've produced a peer adaptation study with Beckett Rankin. Lightweight design solutions report. This report has costed refits and drawings for improvements that can be made to peers to make them accessible to cargo bikes, so we can have even more light freight options for our peers. Also, as part of our Clean Air Villages 4 project, we have introduced shared bike schemes in Camden, in Wimbledon, and in LB Lewisham. I believe Bikeworks might be on the call today. And they have been offering training to Lewisham staff, specifically in the housing teams, so that they can use the bikes confidently and over the. So we know that there's still a lot of problems with cycle freights, and not so easy. So infrastructurally, is that word? It is now. We still need cycleways, we still need roadside access, we still need curbless access sometimes. It's going to be really fantastic. Cycling parking, security, premises. I believe we might today have Archco on call. Premises have been a bit of a barrier to some of our trials that we've getting space to set up a logistics hub. Or to put your bike, or to store your bike, or to charge your bike. We know there are all sorts of problems, lithium-ion batteries and being fire risks and things, all sorts of issues that mean that you might not be able to drop a cargo bike into your business so easy. That's why I put a picture of this map on the side of the screen. Is our hub map, which is on our CRP website, which is something that we share. Spaces that are available for use for hubs, for logistics, micro logistics, and training and maintenance is also a challenge as well. The skills and knowledge associated with cargo bike use are quite specialised. They're quite unique pieces of kit. It's not something necessarily that's transferable directly from maybe a traditional delivery method, like in a van. It's not even transferable necessarily from a normal bicycle. It's quite a unique piece of kit that might need some more specialised knowledge, and that can be a barrier for use. So I've got a picture of CRP's very own Isadora here. Hi, she's in the room. We do a lot of engaging businesses. It's a big part of what we do. This is us in Brixton to go and talk to businesses to sell the project that I've sell the projects to get businesses involved. So we know that the businesses that we talk to might be time poor. They might have limited time, limited resources to pick up these skills and knowledge associated with using cargo bikes. They might have limited space, they might have limited resources, and they might have quite high staff turnover. So even if you've got someone who's really motivated and engaged and has picked up a cargo bike for your business, has worked out how you can maintain it, worked out how to use it. If you lose that person from your business, you've lost that knowledge as well. So you want to know that you can get that knowledge that someone else can pick up too. So we've got a difficulty in developing and maintaining technical knowledge and experience that enables people to make use of these cargo bikes. And we've got a bit of a background funding shift as well. Public sector funding is generally moving away from things like training resources into hard infrastructure. That's a bit of the background of public funding. So we've got some challenges in getting people to use cargo bikes, which we know are a really fantastic way of getting stuff around. Which is why we've come up with our new web tool. This is the bit that I'm deeply going to regret, but I'm going to encourage you all to get your phone out and search bizcargobike.london. You can Google businesscargobike.london. I think we might be the third hit on Google if you don't feel like typing the whole URL in. And this is the point where I'm going to lose you all because you're going to be on your phones. But do have a look at the website. It's hot off the press. We've just made it as part of our Clean Air Villages 4 project with funding from DEFRA. And we've worked on this website with our developers at Templo, who have produced a fantastic design, images and animations and things for the site as well. So we built this, we've kind of identified our need for businesses. We know that we need to plug a hole around skills and knowledge to help businesses use this fantastic way of greening deliveries and things. And we built this with some input from our cargo bike businesses that known to us. And our priorities in building this site were to make compelling dynamic content, something that was going to be interesting, something that a user could visit again and again, something that wasn't just going to be a static guide bit of information. Otherwise, we would have just done a boring old report. Not that reports are boring. I'm going to put my foot in it. Okay. We wanted this site to be accessible, so cargo bikes can be something that there's a lot of technical knowledge around. One of the existing sources of information about cargo bikes that we found that people were relying on web forums. People were relying on quite specialised forums where people might not be using the most intuitive and accessible language when talking about these things. So we've tried to really go present information in a way that is useful to someone that might not have any background understanding at all. But at the same time suitable for users that might have a bit more understanding, that might have a cargo bike and that might have fallen out of love with it, that might have a cargo bike but it's broken, they might have a cargo bike but they just don't know where they can store it or insure it or whatever it might be. So there's stuff for beginners and some more advanced steps on there as well. So some of the features of the website, it provides key information for business users, approachable non-technical resources. We also wanted it to be something that we could share opportunities, both CRP opportunities and funding opportunities that we know that come up in the sector as well. We've got a new section on this website where we can share some of our projects, some of our wins, some new projects that might be coming up, and I'll touch on them a bit later. We want to connect CRP and our partners with cargo bike businesses and businesses looking to most of cargo bikes. And we also wanted this to be a place where we can share challenges as well, because we know that it's not all plain sailing. We're not just going to be like, it's a good news, Wendy. There are sometimes might be issues that our users are having with cargo bikes that talking through as a community might benefit. A chunk of this website as well is a directory of businesses and services around cargo bikes, a range of services. You might be able to see on the board. It's super tiny on my screen and I can't really read it, but that's my screen grabs. We've got businesses that provide cargo bike purchase, insurance, training, servicing, and some other stuff as well, but I definitely need glasses. These can be filtered by location, they can be filtered by type to make them super accessible. Our ultimate goal is to connect users, to connect our business users with these professionals that are so passionate and so knowledgeable about cargo bikes. We work with cargo bikes a lot at CRP, but I can't tell you how to fix one off the top of my head. I don't know. But there are a lot of people out there that, it's a passionate industry, right? So our best case scenario is getting a user that has a problem linked up with a professional, with a business, with a service in London that can help them out. So we're providing expertise where it's needed most. And really importantly, this is something that's still growing. This is there's a section on the website that if you are a business to get signed up. There is a section on the website that if you have a cargo bike challenge or a cargo bike question, you can get in touch. And we've already had our first question, which is fun because we have the URL's only gone live a few days ago. So this is something that's going to grow with us and grow with our work, and also grow with the sector a little bit as well, and respond to hopefully what's happening with cargo bikes. So some of the CRP projects that we've got coming up relevant to our cargo bike work. I've said the word cargo bike so many times, guys. Called Clean Air Logistics for London is our 12-month DEFRA funded project. We had our launch event at the start of the month. We'll be looking to establish last mile logistics hubs, which might connect with river freight work as well. Also, our bricks and logistics hub, that is why I've got a picture of a gentleman with a very large bike standing outside liquor supply, one of our prospective users for this scheme. We are offering free business-to-business deliveries for businesses in Brixton. That is provided by our wonderful partners at Pedal Me, who are using their premises. Oh no, that was a few slides ago that I had that picture. There was a picture of a warehouse that had some bikes in it, and that's the Pedal Me hub. This project is going to be ongoing for the next year as part of everything start. Impact on urban health. I'm going to wrap up there because I'm falling over myself, but please do visit the website. I know that we've got some cargo bike businesses on the call. Yes, basically, stay tuned, and we'll be hopefully listing some more opportunities and then growing the site as we continue to work on cargo bikes. Thank you, guys.
So much. Oops. I really enjoyed all three of those presentations. We've got about time for one question per speaker. Do we have any from the audience in the room? While you're thinking, I can have a look through the chat.
We've had one online question. A question for Alexandra. Given the importance of reducing congestion and pollution in London, any idea why the PLA is believed to wanting to add a 23p per tonne levy on spoil transported by barge from the Silverton Tunnel?
He wants to do what, sorry?
I think this could be one for Alex. So it's just in the chat, a question for Alex. Given the importance of reducing congestion and pollution in London, just a question on levy for the Silvertown Tunnel. If you don't want to put it on the spot, we can come back to that question later on.
Thanks, Pamela. I didn't know about this. I think we probably need to go and speak to our PLA friends and find out what the theory is behind this.
We will follow up with more information from Pamela.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly that tomorrow. Okay, amazing. We've had some pre-asked questions from Eventbrite. The first one we can go to Chris from Michael Diamond. So with larger mixed developments happening in town centres, how can developers work closely with road authorities, boroughs and TfL and public transport operators to create integrated solutions? You kind of touched on this.
Yeah, does that work? Good. All right. I mean, the basic point is starting with dialogue and working out what happened and who you need to involve along the way. People in the point down there, you can see that there's a sort of random bit of work being done to getting it took a long time actually, and the thing that genuinely held it up was a politician who was just not paying attention to what his own constituents were saying. But once you're actually able to sort of point those people at the right place, then you can actually get somewhere a little bit more constructive together. I think the starting point is just working out where you're all aligned, and once you've done that, the rest of it should fall into place quite easily.
Okay, perfect. If you could pass the microphone to that room, we've had a question. Is there opportunity for the site to kind of list employment opportunities for the sector, and yeah, just some ideas on the way that the site can grow a bit more?
Right, so we have there's a listing tag for riders, which is at the moment it's only got one listing at the moment, which I believe is partly pedals, who have they have a scheme that they're looking for riders for a cargo bike that picks up waste and recycling in partly bid. As and when these opportunities can become known to us, we will of course share them. This is definitely something we can grow on the site. yeah, I think we're trying to really crystallise while the site is new our users as business users. But I think there's potential for obviously, as Alexandra said, the industry is growing. There are a lot more opportunities arising, but just so that we can really get the site out there for businesses first, I think we can maybe grow to share those kind of opportunities a bit later on.
Perfect, thank you. We're definitely. I guess one more for Alex then, just from November from Chris and Kramer Consulting. How can we find commercial sites or buildings for the consolidation centres for the food supply to major population centres, especially with road and rail connection?
Yeah, so thanks, Chris. Really, oh, sorry, I'm just going through my notes here, Chris. What I wanted to say in terms of consolidation is that logistics is already very consolidated. So HGV for a supermarket, for example, is as consolidated a delivery as you really can get. And consolidation centres might work for single huge buyers, such as a local authority or an NHS trust. But often a consolidation centre would actually add additional steps into the supply chain, as well as increasing congestion with more but smaller delivery vehicles. So again, solutions to supply chain problems really need to be holistic, and a consolidation centre will probably not be a panacea in the same way that the river won't be a panacea as well.
There's a few more for the speakers. Just the time I will follow up. Make sure you get your answers tomorrow. Perfect. Our contact information is on screen. If you need any else. And today's put a link to our next session, which is taking place on the 18th of August. That will be online on Teams, so definitely sign up.